Welcome to Happy Friday. Hope you guys are ready for a good weekend. I've been sick with the flu, which hasn't happened in a long time. I think it was like trauma of my mother's passing, that mental emotional trauma, really lowered my immune system. And I haven't had a cold or flu in many, many years. I never even got it when during the COVID pandemic, so it's very unusual. Um, and partly the reason why I don't get colds very often is because I take my Chinese herbs very, very religiously. So thank you and for joining this live session on getting to know yourself to make good life decision, getting to know yourself to make good life decision. I love this topic because I think when you have an awareness of who you are, what is the way you are, the pace at which you work, how you think, the way you approach things, it allows you to make better decisions in your life, which allows you to then become a more powerful manifester of your life. So that is today's topic. Thanks, Charlie Girl. Thank you. I am feeling better. That's why I was able to come on. I think it started last Saturday, and then I started to feel a lot better yesterday, where I felt like I could function. I could go out, I could do things, I could do errands, I could cook and things like that, which is the reason why I was able to come on today because I did have I did have a small flu couple few months ago, but that lasted for like 2 days. So, like I said, it's very unusual for me to have it, and I for this long. I mean, this has now been over 5 days, and I think it was the trauma of my mother's passing that really affected my immune system, mental, and also the burial. The day of her burial, it was outdoors, and it was in heavy rain, and I think the cold of that day also affected my immune system. I think it was everything. So anyway, um, so that's today's topic of how to really get to know yourself. And I'm going to show you some of the different categories of how you can put yourself in certain categories, general categories, and having an awareness of that category, and then approaching a solution or a problem or a challenge in a certain way that is aligned with that category so that you can make better decisions in your life. Okay, so, and if you have any questions as I'm going through this tip and giving suggestions, please let me know. Or if you have questions about anything else in your life, please let me know. This is really the time to come on and ask me questions live. And I have my dog on my lap. You can't see him. I have him on my lap, my dog Happy. So if I bend to put him down, know that I'm putting down my dog. Um, and so you know why I'm bending, because he might want to leave my lap. He asked to come on my lap. So that's why I have them on my lap. Okay, so let's clear the energy of the room and then let's get straight to the topic of how to know yourself better so that you can make life decisions. Just be present, breathe naturally. Let's stay present in the power of now. Just spirit guides and masters, divine creator. Thank you so much for allowing us to create this sacred space on the topic of how to know yourself better to make good life decisions. Thank you so much for protecting this room and removing any low frequency energies from this space so that we will have a session with flow, ease, and have wonderful engagement with each other so that we may learn and teach from each other and have a lively engagement so that we can all benefit at the highest level. So thank you so much for allowing this session to go off without a hitch, to go off with smooth serenity, peace, with lots of wisdoms flowing through, and to be able to answer any questions that come our way and to have the highest beneficial outcome so that we can know ourselves better, so that we can make better life decisions. Thank you. And so it is. Okay. Hi, Christina. How are you? Nice to see you. Okay, so the topic is how to know yourself to make good life decisions. And so there's a tool that was coined by, I think she was a psychotherapist named Allison. I forget what her last name was. And it's a tool of the four general personality categories. There's four general personality categories. One is category is the ruby. Second category is the emerald. Third category is ruby, emerald, pearl. Sorry, my mind is a little foggy because of my cold. Let me just write this down. It's mind is a little foggy because of the flu. Ruby, emerald, uh, pearl, and let's just say oh, sapphire. Okay. So ruby, emerald, sapphire, pearl. Sorry for being slow this morning. Hello, Najira. Hi, Arpita. Hello, Samuel. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Samuel. I'm here to serve. Okay, so the four categories are ruby, emerald, sapphire, and pearl. And each of these categories have a certain energetic blueprint, energetic quality to them. And all of us have some of each of these four qualities. It's just that some of us may have more of one quality than the others. So, for example, if we take, for example, Charlie Girl, she might have, let's say, 40% ruby and, 30% emerald and 20% sapphire and then 10% pearl. She has all four energetic qualities. However, the largest lion's share of her quality is ruby, which makes her more ruby. And so let me go through the categories of what each one represents. So the ruby person is somebody who's very yang oriented, meaning they're very action oriented. They make decisions very quickly. They don't need to know a lot. They're somebody who really pursues and goes for it. And they can make a very good leader because they have this forceful yang energy. There's nothing shy about them. They're like a almost like a force of nature. They go for it. They have they're they take more risks. So they're like this, yang, strong yang energy that pushes things forward, that's assertive, aggressive, that's out there, that's extroverted. Okay, so that's a ruby type. And I'm sure all of you have met ruby types. Emerald is somebody who is measured. Emerald needs time. Emerald needs time so that they could do a lot of research. They need evidence. They need data. They need time to research. They also need time to be mindful, to think about it, to weigh the the good and bad, have the time and space to think about it, be measured, get the research, get the data. So they're not somebody who's going to make decisions quickly. They're not going to be somebody that can be pushed to make decisions quickly. They need time and space to be able to make a decision. And lots of research, lots of evidence, lots of data. That's what they're looking for. Sapphires are those who want to have fun, who want to really enjoy life, who's all about having fun, enjoyment. They're looking to crack a joke. They're looking to just really have fun in whatever that they're doing, enjoy life. They're not that as serious. They have a quality of lightness and humor and don't necessarily take things seriously. So with the sapphires, because they just really want to have fun, they may not be as reliable type. They might not be as reliable. They may not be as committed. but there's somebody you can that want to have fun, and that's a good quality. So, they're not so much about heavy things or heavy topics and heaviness. Oh, there's my dog. You see my dog Happy? Say hello to everybody. Hello. Hello, everyone. Hello. This is Happy. So that's what a sapphire is. A pearl is somebody who's very introverted. So somebody who is a hermit, somebody who doesn't like to be around lots of crowds, who doesn't like to socialize as much, who's shy, who's somebody who's inward, somebody who feels awkward in maybe big parties or big situations. The person is kind of a hermit. A sapphire would be somebody who could do a corner desk job. When you have like a little corner desk job, let's say people don't bother you, you do your own thing. Maybe you're working with numbers, so you're not relying on a lot of human interaction. You're quiet, you're introverted, uh, you're not out there making a lot of ripple, right? But we need the pearls. So we need every single one of these four categories because they all play into how our society runs, right? We need the pearls to do certain jobs. So I would say pearls would be great for somebody who's a bookkeeper, right? Bookkeepers, they can do their job by themselves. There's no real politics that they have to play, right? Because they're working with numbers. They could do it by themselves. They could sit in a corner desk and do the bookkeeping, right? Um, Sapphires are people maybe who would maybe be better at a sales job because sapphires like kind of adventure and fun, and they like to go out and have fun and meet people. So sapphires may be better at more of a sales type jobs. Emeralds are people who could make very good researchers and engineers where they need a lot of information. They're looking for information. They're looking for evidence. They're looking for data. They're looking for those empirical evidence to be able to make decisions. And rubies, like I said, can make very good leaders, very strong leaders, because they're out there, they're extroverted, they have courage to make the big decisions, and they take greater risks. And rubies can also make great entrepreneurs. So these four categories, ruby, emerald, sapphire, and pearl, you all possess. It's just we just have it in different percentages within us. And so once you understand where your predominance is, and what I would do is I would have an exercise where I would put the ruby, emerald, sapphire, pearl columns, four columns, and then underneath it, check off, write down the reasons why you might be a ruby, write down the reasons why you might be an emerald, write down the reasons why you could be a sapphire, write down reasons why you could be a pearl. And you would know, you already probably know intuitively which way you more are. Are you more pearl? Are you more sapphire? Are you more ruby? But that list can easily show you I am predominantly emerald. I am predominantly sapphire. I'm predominantly pearl. And so when you know this about yourself, of these energetic qualities, what is your primary energetic quality? What is the second primary energetic quality? So I would rate them: the first energetic quality, the second one, third, and fourth. So let's say emerald is 50% of who you are. Ruby is 20% of who you are. Sapphire is 10% of who you are. And pearl is 20% of who you are, which makes up 100% your constitution of who you are. Then as you're going through life and making decisions, you can you can make decisions more mindfully based on knowing who you are and comfortably. And so and so this is where it becomes a great tool to know yourself, because you you're not necessarily, if you're more of an emerald, you know that you can't be rushed, that you need time, you need data, you need research, you need to weigh the different variables in the situation, right? So you know that. And so if somebody's trying to, pressure you for a decision, this and that and that, you know that you need that time, and you could behave and respond in a way that gives you that energetic space and time so that you could feel comfortable in the decisions that you make, right? Uh, and so knowing that about yourself could be very empowering because then you can employ the right strategies for yourself. Okay, so let me just take a break quickly and see if there's any questions so far. If you have any questions as I'm going along, please let me know. Hi, Perry. How are you? Nice to see you. Hi, Elsie Phillips. Hi, Charlotte. Oh, hello. I know we have met happy. Yeah. Christine, yeah, his spelling is Happee. When I rescued him, his name was already Happy, but then I put the EE at the end. I changed it to EE, just thought it was cuter. But he's getting old. His white, if you see the white, it used to be tan. And as he's gotten older, that tan part has now gone white. He's like an old man now. He's like maybe 14 years old. And so, but he's my bear. I love him to death. Okay. Uh, unique soul's purpose with our own individual interests, intentions, actions help us to improve our quality of life with understanding and having clear knowledge of our own choices. Great point. Thank you so much, Perry. Thank you so much, Perry. So within this context of the ruby, emerald, sapphire, pearl, having a sense of an awareness of what you are energetically in these four categories really can empower you to make a decision in your life. So let's say you want to make a decision about, let's say, should I change careers, for example? That might be, a lot of people sometimes think about changing careers, and maybe you want to leave your job of 20 years and you feel like I need to make a change, and you're thinking about maybe leaving that 20-year career and going into a completely new field that you've never had experience. And so that could be very daunting. So when it's a daunting decision, like I'm going to now leave this career I've had for 20 years and go do something completely different, that could feel overwhelming and daunting, right? And so understanding who you are in that process could help you make that transition. So if you're more of a Ruby personality in that transition, then you'll say, you know what? I just know that this is my path and I don't need to do a lot of research. I don't need to um, I don't need to dwell on it for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I can make a faster decision because I feel strongly. I feel like this career is not expanding my soul. My whole purpose here is to feel expansion and growth, and this no longer serves me, but this new area feels exciting. It feels like I could really expand and grow. It feels like I could really have an adventure and really lead in this area because I just feel so excited about it and I feel very motivated about it. And so somebody who's a Ruby doesn't need to contemplate for weeks on end to make that decision, but will make the decision fairly quickly and can start to make that transition fairly quickly. So then the Ruby would be like, what are all the resources that I need to bring to bear to make this transition? Maybe I need to take some new courses, like online courses. And the Ruby character will go and make that decision quickly and start bringing all the resources to bear to make that transition and moving quickly on that. And that's for a Ruby. But if somebody was an Emerald, they couldn't make that transition quickly. They would need more time. They might want to do research on that field. They may want to study more about that field. They may want to talk to people who are in that field before they actually make sure. They might want to research what are the opportunities that I might have in that field before they actually make that transition. So the emerald will need more time. The emerald, it might take them double, triple, or quadruple time of the ruby. And that doesn't mean that it's necessarily wrong that they're taking triple time. It might be in divine timing. You know what I'm saying? Everything has its divine timing. It's their timing. It's the way they operate and work and feel comfortable. And so if you're more of an emerald type, give yourself the time, space, and energy to research, to find the data, to find evidence, to find empirical evidence, to contemplate, to look at the list, to figure out which way, maybe figure out a plan, have some little plan, have like a big vision plan. And all of this is very aligned with the way the emerald is. And so you're in alignment with who you are. See, so when you're making a decision, you're making it by being aligned with who you are as opposed to going against who you are. If you're a sapphire, it might be like, okay, how can I make this an adventure? Is this transition going to be an adventure? The new field, is there opportunity to feel like I'm an adventure, have fun, and feel like I'm on this great journey of life? And does that field provide that opportunity? Because some fields might, you know, provide that, whereas others may not be as glamorous, as adventurous, according to the sapphire. So if maybe it's maybe a job that where you travel, get to travel, and you go on an adventure, whereas the job that you currently have for 20 years, you're stuck in a little cubicle, right? And you're not having as much fun, you're not having that journey, that adventure. And so that's something to know about yourself, to be able to make that decision, to be able to say, yes, I can make this transition and I must make this transition because this field, this new direction that I want to go to is aligned with my my energetic blueprint as more of a sapphire, somebody who's looking for adventure, who's looking for fun, who's looking to be light, who's looking to have a journey, not so much necessarily the safety, but more have fun. A pearl personality would maybe be seeking more security and say, well, is if I go into this new field, can I can I work? Do I have to interact with a lot of people? Do I have to socialize? Can I be more of a hermit still? Can I, um, can I do my own thing? And do I have to be extroverted or can I stay introverted? Does this field allow me to stay introverted? Because that's really who I am. That's really how I feel comfortable in my skin. That's how it aligns with my soul's journey, right? So this is a really wonderful exercise that you can do when you're making big life decision. And you could do this even if you're, let's say, making a move, you want to make a move. Maybe you want to make a move to another state, or you want to make a move to another city or to another country. You can say, based on these qualities of knowing who I am, how can I do this? It's really a matter of how. It's not a matter of can I do it, because every one of the quality can do it. It's just a matter of how can I do it, and does it align with who I am? So does this decision align with who I am? That's what you really want to get to. That's the crux of it, of knowing who you are. Is it aligned with who I really am? When you look at certain people and they're doing certain jobs, you're just like, oh, they're meant to do that work, right? Because it's aligned with who they are. And sometimes when we see other people do certain things, we want to do it, but it might not, because we see, they inspire us or they motivate us, or we want to have that lifestyle or whatever it is. But it may not necessarily be aligned with who we are. And that's where that disconnect comes. And we're trying to force something because we see something that's outside of us that's not necessarily relevant to us, that we might want to have that lifestyle. That person's life looks, you're on social media, oh, that person's life looks so fabulous, but it may not really align with who we are. So when I see people follow some of the celebrities and they have such huge followers. It's like I would say probably a certain percentage of the follower, they're like, oh God, I wish I was like that person. And you really can't be that person because your energetic blueprint is very different. So being that person or following that person's step would not really align with who you are. So knowing this, knowing what percentages you are in these four categories and what is your predominant category? Is it ruby? Is it sapphire? Is it emerald? Or is it pearl? What is the predominance? That's going to really help you to determine whether that decision is aligned with you. Okay, so let's take another break and see if there's any questions. Okay, please take time to give Moon. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Perry, for encouraging others to support this channel. Oh, thank you, Perry. Yeah, my happy he's adore. He's my life. Oh, what was sad about when my mother passed, unfortunately, my sister, she had a dog named Cookie and she had to put him down simultaneously. Well, what happened was my mother fell, she had an accident, and she hit her head and she started having internal bleeding. And she was in the hospital for 12 hours while my other sister came during the night shift. And then my other sister came during the weekend. And so they were all shifting so that my mother would never be alone. And so after 12-hour shift, when she went home, her dog Cookie, who was already in a very bad stage of his life, and she was already thinking that she might have to put him down because his mental faculties were completely gone. He was completely blind, but she didn't want to put him down because she loved Cookie so much. And so she wouldn't leave her dog for more than 2, 3 hours at a time. That was her normal course. That's why she kept him alive. He was about 16, 17 years old, and she didn't want to put him down because she loved Cookie so much, and she loved my mom unconditionally. She was my mom's primary caregiver, and she unfortunately, because when she after 12-hour shift at being with my mom, when she went back home, her dog was completely a complete mess. He was, my sister said he looked like he was almost dead because she was gone for 12 hours at a time. And so she was so distressed about it. And she thought that she was going to be taking care of my mom, that my mom would be out of ICU and she was in rehabilitation care. So she thought my mom was going to live longer, get out of the hospital. She couldn't do it. So she and her son made the hardest decision to put their dog down. So my sister lost two of her most precious beings in her life, my mom and her dog, which she considered as her second. And she said to me, if I had known that mom would go quickly, because my mom went 5 days after she put her dog down. She said, if I had known that mom would go quickly, I would never have put my dog down. I would have kept him alive for at least a few more months. And so it was just devastating to lose your dog and your mom at the same time, especially for my sister, because she was their primary caregiver. But so I love animals so much. So it was just reminding me when you talked about knowledge, my dog. I was thinking about Cookie. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about this topic? Niger, sorry. Oh, thank you, Niger. Yeah, we're very sad, but we are very, very, I feel blessed that my mom at least didn't suffer too much before. She suffered for about 2 days, and then she went unconscious, and she was in the rehabilitation center, and they thought that she was gonna get rehabilitated and then come home. And so, but then she went unconscious, and she had she was her whole head was full of blood, and she went unconscious and there was no way to bring her back. And so it was very, very devastating, but she lived a full life, 94. And if it wasn't for her that accident where she had fell on her head, she probably would have lived to 100, because she was healthy. She was healthy. So, because of my sister's care. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions. So let's talk about this. I have always desired alignment in my life. The way you get this alignment is aligning with who you are. That's how you get alignment with your life. So often, like I said, where we don't get the alignment is we look at somebody else's life and we think, oh my God, I want to be like that person. I want to have the things that that person has. I want to look like that person. I want to behave like that person, right? And we see this. This is one of the reasons why we have such celebrity adoration, is because rather than really looking inward to figure out who you are, we're so distracted and busy looking at somebody else and who they are. And because they seem to have adoration of millions of people, which really doesn't mean much on a soul level, it's really just a surface admiration, because nobody really knows that celebrity, right? Nobody really knows that person. It's like an adoration from a distance, admiration from a distance. You don't really know what's going on in that person's life. And then it's a superficial kind of way of viewing their life, saying that that's who I want to be, without knowing who you really are, without knowing what is your makeup, what drives you, what motivates you, what makes you wake up every day, how is your energetic blueprint. What do you feel comfortable with? What are you not comfortable with, right? There's no good or bad. There's just oranges and apples. So it's not like, a pearl is better than a sapphire. Sapphire is better than emerald. Emerald is better than ruby. Every one of these qualities have its good and bad. And to go over the good and bad, the yin and yang of each one of these categories, let's go through it. So for instance, if you're more of a ruby, you have to be aware that if you're a ruby, then because you're very forceful and assertive and you can make decisions quickly, that those quick decisions may have undesired ramifications or consequences in the future because you didn't think about it long enough. You weren't mindful enough. So so that's the that's the negative part. That's the two-sided coin. On the one hand, it's good to be a go-getter. It's good to be assertive. It's good to be, take action, right? On the other hand, if you're too rash and harsh and quick to make those decisions, then it could backfire on you because you may have should have taken more time, be more measured, right? So that's the that's the two-sided coin of the ruby. The two-sided coin of the emerald is, if the emerald is always looking for data and looking to think about it, then at some point they may not be able to make a decision, right? Have you not noticed that there's some people who they don't know what to do? They've thought about it for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, a year goes by, and they never do anything. It's like as if they're debilitated because they're thinking too much. An emerald could think too much. An emerald could think too much. And so when you think too much, you feel all of a sudden debilitated and you don't know which way to go. So you can't make a decision. And so if there's something that you want to start, you may never start it because you're just too much of an emerald and you're looking too much for evidence, too much data, and too much data could sometimes confuse you. It could be good and bad. So there's the emerald sided, two-sided coins. So the emerald could prevent you from doing things to move your life forward or to expand and grow because you don't want to take the risk. You want more data. You can't make a decision. For a sapphire, again, two-sided coins. For a sapphire, the person wants to have fun, wants to have adventure, is lighthearted. But the sapphire often maybe can't commit to something, can't see it through. So the sapphire might be like, yeah, that's fun. Let's do it. Let's try it. But might take 2 steps, but doesn't follow through, follow through, follow through. It's all about following through and staying with it, staying resilient, committed. The sapphire might not be committed because it's like at some point it might not be fun because certain things, maybe if you start a business or a company, yes, it's exciting and it could be fun and the journey can be fun, but there's a lot of stuff that comes your way that you have to stay resilient and committed. And so with the sapphire energy, there's that lack of commitment, follow through, resilience. And so again, it's that two-sided coin. On the pearl side, you're so introvert, you're a hermit. So if you're so introvert and you're a hermit, you might be missing opportunities to meet great people, that could help you or resonate with you, align with you, right? And you're so closed in that people don't really get to know you as well, right? And and you might be missing good social opportunities or be able to make good friends, be able to really have this beautiful social network that people can support you, but you're like a hermit. And the beauty of a pearl is that they are the hermit. The hermit energy is a beautiful energy because I think there's nothing better than being alone and being independent like that, where you are alone and you spend time alone and you enjoy being alone. I think when you enjoy and spend time being alone, you come home to your soul. But if you're too much of a pearl, then it could, at times, it could backfire because you're kind of chilling yourself in the world, which can also stymie your growth and expansion. And so each of these qualities have the yin and yang. It's a two-sided coin. And so within the context of who you are, if you're more of a ruby and you want to make a quick decision and you want to make a quick decision about a really big decision, then as a ruby, you could check yourself. You said, oh, I see that, I'm making a quick decision, but maybe I need to do a little bit more due diligence on this before I make that big decision. Because when it's a big decision, if it's a smaller decision, like, oh, what am I going to eat for dinner? The consequences are not as big, right? But if you're going to make a big decision, you want to maybe check in with yourself. You want to check in. If you are um, an emerald, you might say, oh God, this is a big decision. I've done so much research. I've thought about it for so months. And now I feel like I'm debilitated because I have too much information and I'm overthinking. You could check yourself. You could say, okay, I'm going to give myself a deadline to make a decision by this point because there's no more research to be done. You could do research until, you know, there's no longer sun, So you could just, which would be never, so you want to make sure that you're checking yourself within these categories and boundaries of the ruby, emerald, sapphire, and pearl, because everything is a two-sided coin. You don't want to go extreme to one way. You don't want to go extreme to one way. Or if you're a pearl and you're making a big decision and uh, and there's and you're like a hermit and you really don't want to come out of your shell, that could also be a disadvantage because there might be something out there that is so good for you, that is such a wonderful opportunity, but because you're a pearl, you don't want to step out of your boundaries. And now you're losing a beautiful opportunity that could really help in your expansion and growth. So this is where you want to check yourself with these qualities about you. Am I being too extreme? And find that yin and yang balance, when you're making the big decisions. This is really for the big decisions in your life. So big decisions about career, about relationships, about money. Check in with yourself. Check in about these qualities, okay? So um so I hope that this is helpful. Does anybody have any other questions? Hi, Carolyn. How are you? You're welcome. You're welcome. It's my honor and pleasure. Okay, let me see if there's any questions that anybody has asked because I'm happy to answer it for you. Oh, thank you, Najira. Najira says, may her soul rest in eternal peace. Yes. She is an eternal peace. And I've been doing a prayer to her and my late sister. She's joined by my late sister's son, SUN, and my father. They're buried in the same lot. And I'm very grateful that she didn't suffer in this physical world for many days before she passed. So it happened pretty quickly. So I'm happy that she didn't suffer. I always say the suffering pain is the part that I don't want to experience. I don't mind going because we're eternal beings. It's the suffering and pain part that I think I fear the most. And the suffering and pain is what we don't want to see, especially our loved ones, whether it's our family, friends, or our pets, our dogs, cats, animals. Hate to see that. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Najira. Okay, does anybody else have any questions? Carolyn Hashowski, thank you. How to trust people? That's a good question. Um, that's a good question. You know what? I love that question because I think that trusting people is really, in some ways, trusting yourself. Why is that related to each other? Because when you trust yourself, you trust that you're picking the right people to trust, right? It's that when we feel that we can't trust ourselves, that we don't know if we could trust that person, we could trust, have the discernment to be able to say, that person is trustworthy, that person is trustworthy, that person is trustworthy. And so I think it really comes down to if you could trust in your own discernment and judgment, the ability to discern and judge. I would say discernment. And I'm going to do a show next week about discernment versus judgment. What are the difference between those two things? Because we're talking about discernment, not judging. Judging is something that we want to move away from. Discernment is observing things and then making choices that are in alignment with you. That's discernment because we've got to make decisions every day based on what we observe, right? We have to make a decision. Can I work with that person or not? Right? Can I trust that person or not? Like, I had to make a discernment of uh, I'm going to be out of town and somebody's going to come in to watch Happy. And I had to make a discernment decision of can I trust this person to come in and take good care of my dog? So that's something that I had to discern. And so when you start to really trust yourself and your ability to be discerning, that's when you start to be in flow, connect with people that you can trust, right? Because there are lots of people that you can't trust, right? There are lots of people that you can't trust. We don't want to be naive about the situation, about the world, right? There's a lot of people who may not have the best intention to do good for others. So we don't want to be naive. So we have to be able to discern whether somebody is trustworthy. And I think when you become more trusting in your discernment, then you will connect with and you will recognize who is less trustworthy because there's a relationship between those two things. Because it's when we don't trust and we don't feel like, oh, we question ourselves too much. Every time we question ourselves too much and we question whether we're good enough or whether we have the ability to discern or whether we have the ability to do something and we question that doubt and we have those doubts. And all of us will have it. It's just some of us will have it much at a higher level than others. And when we start to have those doubts at a high level, it no longer serves us. And so once we come home to our soul, that's why this exercising of coming home to your soul is so important because when you come home to your soul, you're coming home to your eternal truth, who you really are, this divinity of the God and the universe. And there's no hiding, there's only light. There's only light there. The God and universe only places a light. And so when you can connect with your own light, you can see the light in the light or darkness in others. That's why it's important to trust yourself, trust in your discernment, your ability to discern so that that can connect with what is out there, the external people. I hope that has helped you, Carolyn. Okay. Oh, you think you're a hermit? Congratulations. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm actually a hermit myself. I'm actually a hermit myself. Hi, Dabia. Nice name, beautiful name. Sadness is a strong force, and losing loved ones is not easy. Please take your time to mourn your beloved mother. That is a deep part of your being. I felt part of me dies when every departure. Yes, thank you so much, Dabia. Thank you so much. I yeah, it's been like 2 weeks, more than 2 weeks when she passed, and I took about uh I've been taking time off, so it's been good, and I've been connecting with them on a spiritual level. They're still here. They're eternal beings, but we always miss them no matter what. They get missed. Even though they're still here with us, they're eternal beings. They're always missed. So thank you so much, Tabia. Thank you. Um, Carolyn, I think this is why I have a daycare. Children are so good for telling how they feel. Oh, you have a daycare, Carolyn? Congratulations. What a beautiful work that you're doing. Let me tell you, the work that you provide as a uh, daycare person is so beautiful because I always say our children have to be in the right environment. If they're not in the right environment, we might mess them up as adults. And so the people around them that influence them as children are the most important people, their parents, the teachers, the daycare people. Those are the most important people because they're the ones that are helping to raise this child, these children, right? And as the shaman says, give me a child age 1 to 7, and I will give you the man. So thank you so much for doing that important work. The work that you are doing is so important. I cannot tell you how important it is. And that's why you say that you feel like you yeah, that the daycare kind of helps you because as a hermit, you don't have to you don't have to be something that you're not, right? Because children will just be who they are. They won't try to necessarily hide who they are, right? They won't try to put a mask. They kind of run around, do their thing, right? They're pure like that. And like you say, they tell you how they feel. And so that could be an interesting, that's a wonderful match for you, actually. I could see why. Hi, Temeka Johnson. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the prayer. I really appreciate it. I love prayers. I love prayers. Thank you for the prayers. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. How, Najira asked, how to accept yourself plus your personality. Okay. How do you accept yourself? I have so many guided meditations that can help, you know, that could help with that. You accept yourself because you accept yourself. So you accept yourself because you stop telling stories that go against yourself. Every time you tell a story, every time you say a thought that doesn't honor you, you're not accepting yourself. And so it's a practice. Accepting yourself actually becomes a practice because if you keep repeating, I'm not good enough for that, I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve that. Like you say, oh, I can't have a person like that in my life. What you're saying is you're not good enough. So you keep enforcing the fact that uh, you're not honoring yourself. And every time you tell a thought that doesn't honor you, you are not accepting you. So this becomes a practice. And then if you say it enough, that thought enough to yourself over and over again, it goes into your subconscious mind and it becomes a deep-seated belief. And now you've really brainwashed yourself to a point where it's going to be harder to reverse it. Everything could be reversed. It just gets harder and harder. And so you have to be aware of that. You have to be aware of what you're saying. Constantly be aware. It could be tiring. It could be tiring because If you're constantly and what am I saying to myself? Does this what I say to myself honor myself, or does it not honor me? Because if it doesn't honor you, you're not accepting yourself. And every time you say something to yourself that doesn't honor you, you keep moving away from accepting yourself. Okay? Dabia, may you be blessed by your mother and ancestor souls and love all your life. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dabia. Deeply appreciated. Okay, so uh I've got a 10 o'clock call, so I want to take like a little break. So let's do a closing prayer. So just remember, these are the four categories: ruby, emerald, sapphire, and pearl. Make a list of four columns and then write the reasons why you might be ruby, write the reasons why you might be emerald, sapphire, pearl, and then see which of these, and then you could score. You could say, you know what, I'm like 30% ruby, I'm 20% emerald, I'm 5% sapphire, I'm 35% pearl, which adds up to 100%. Make sure it adds up to 100% and look at it and say, wow, this is who I am. And now when I make decisions and I move through life, how can I employ this 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 personality map, you know, this energetic personality quality map? How can I use it to benefit me? How can I use it? How can I leverage this? So rather than looking at other people out there, how can I leverage what I am on this paper that I know to be true about myself? And how can I leverage that? Because there's no one chart is not better than the other chart. It's just oranges and apples. Okay. It's all oranges and apples. So there's no one chart that you could say is stronger than this chart or stronger than that chart. Everything is just oranges and apples. Okay. Okay. So let's do a closing prayer. And then I want to wish you guys a very happy weekend. Dear God, angels, spirit guides, and masters, divine creator, thank you so much for allowing us to create this sacred space on the topic of knowing yourself to make better decisions in life. Thank you so much for all of the beautiful blessings and all the beautiful words for my mother who just has passed away and my sister's dog Cookie. We ask them to bless their continued eternal soul, and that we know that they are still with us here in this time space reality what we call life, and that my mother will continue to be with me to guide me through the rest of my time in this physical realm. So I thank you for all of the beautiful blessings from these beautiful souls. I ask you for all of them to be guided in their journey of their soul's path and to guide them, to show them who they really are so they can make better decisions in their lives. So I thank you for your continued support, your continued guidance, your continued wisdoms, your continued support, and continue to protect us from any low frequency energies or situations that do not serve our highest and best good. And we thank you always, most importantly, for your unconditional love. And so it is. Namaste. Okay.